Goldilocks and Three Bears.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Goldilocks. She had golden hair that shone brightly in the sun, and she loved exploring the forest near her home. One sunny morning, Goldilocks decided to go on an adventure deeper into the forest than ever before. She skipped happily along the path, her basket swinging from her arm, when she smelled something wonderful. "What's that delicious smell?" she thought. It was coming from a little house hidden behind the trees. Curious, Goldilocks followed the smell and knocked on the door of the house. When no one answered, she gently opened the door and peeked inside. Inside, she saw 3 bowls of warm, steaming porridge sitting on the table. Her stomach rumbled. She was so hungry from her walk, and the porridge looked so tasty. She decided to try some. First, she tried the biggest bowl. "Ouch! This porridge is too hot," she cried, pulling her spoon back quickly. Next, she tried the middle-sized bowl. "Yuck! This porridge is too cold," she said, making a face. Then, she tried the tiny bowl. "This porridge is just right," she said, and before she knew it, she had eaten it all up. Feeling full, Goldilocks looked around and saw 3 chairs in the living room. She was ready to rest for a moment. She sat down in the biggest chair first. "This chair is too hard," she said, wiggling around. Then, she tried the middle-sized chair. "This chair is too soft," she said, sinking into the cushions. Finally, she sat in the tiny chair. "Ah, this chair is just right," she said with a big smile. But, oh no! The chair broke into pieces with a loud crack. Goldilocks jumped up in surprise. "Oh dear," she said, looking around. "I need to find somewhere to lie down." Upstairs, Goldilocks found 3 beds. She was very tired now. She lay down in the first bed, the biggest one. "This bed is too hard," she said, sitting up. Then, she tried the middle-sized bed. "This bed is too soft," she said, sinking into the blankets. Finally, she tried the tiny bed. "Ah, this bed is just right," she said happily, and soon she fell fast asleep, her head resting on the soft pillow. Meanwhile, the 3 bears, Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear, were taking a walk in the forest. They were excited to return home and eat their porridge, but when they walked inside their house, something didn't feel right. Papa Bear looked at his porridge and growled, "Someone's been eating my porridge." Mama Bear looked at her bowl and said, "Someone's been eating my porridge too." Baby Bear looked at his empty bowl and cried, "Someone's been eating my porridge," and they ate it all up. The 3 bears walked into the living room. Papa Bear looked at his chair and said, "Someone's been sitting in my chair." Mama Bear looked at hers and said, "Someone's been sitting in my chair too." And Baby Bear, looking at the broken chair, said, "Someone's been sitting in my chair, and it's all broken." The bears went upstairs, and Papa Bear growled, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed." Mama Bear looked at hers and said, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed too." Baby Bear, looking at the tiny bed, said, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed, and she's still there." Goldilocks woke up with a start. She saw the 3 bears standing around her and jumped out of bed, scared. But the bears didn't look angry. They just looked at her kindly. Goldilocks said quickly, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be rude. I was just so curious." The bears nodded, and Papa Bear said, "It's okay, little one. Just remember to ask before you come into someone's home." Goldilocks smiled and promised, "I will. Thank you for being so kind." She quickly ran out of the house and into the forest, feeling both embarrassed and relieved. From that day on, Goldilocks learned to always be polite and respectful when visiting others. The 3 bears, on the other hand, went back to enjoying their porridge, their chairs, and their beds, happy to be together in their peaceful home.
Hello everyone. Today, I'm going to share a fun and interesting story with you. It's about a speedy hare and a slow, steady tortoise, and their race to see who wins. As we listen to the story, pay attention to what happens and what we can learn from it. Ready? Let's begin. Once upon a time, in a sunny forest, there lived a speedy hare and a slow, steady tortoise. The hare loved to brag about how fast he could run. "I'm the fastest in the whole forest," he would say, racing around the trees and jumping over rocks. One day, the tortoise had enough of the hare's boasting. He slowly walked over to the hare and said, "I may be slow, but I can beat you in a race." The hare laughed loudly. "You? Beat me? That's funny. I'm so fast, I can finish the race before you even take the first step." But the tortoise wasn't scared. He smiled and said, "Let's race, and we'll see." The animals in the forest gathered around to watch. They were excited to see who would win. The race would go from the big oak tree to the sparkling river. The race started, and off went the hare, zooming away like a blur. The tortoise took a deep breath and started walking slowly, one step at a time. After a few minutes, the hare was so far ahead that he couldn't see the tortoise anymore. "I'm so fast," he thought. "I'll take a nap and still win." So, the hare found a soft spot under a tree, curled up, and fell asleep. Meanwhile, the tortoise kept moving, step by slow step, never stopping. As the tortoise walked, he passed the snoozing hare. He didn't look back or stop. He just kept going, steady and calm. Hours passed, and the hare finally woke up. He looked around and gasped. The tortoise was almost at the finish line. The hare quickly jumped up and ran as fast as he could, but it was too late. The tortoise had already crossed the finish line, winning the race. The animals cheered for the tortoise. "You did it!" they shouted. The hare was out of breath and could hardly believe it. "How did you beat me?" he asked. The tortoise smiled and said, "Slow and steady wins the race." From that day on, the hare learned to never boast about being the fastest and always remembered the tortoise's wise words. And they all lived happily ever after. The moral of the story is, slow and steady wins the race. This means that if you keep working hard and don't give up, you can succeed, even if others seem faster or better. It's better to stay calm and keep going than to rush or brag.
The Lion and the Mouse. In a vast, sunlit savanna, there lived a mighty lion. His roar was so loud it could shake the trees, and every animal in the jungle respected and feared him. But despite his strength, the lion had one little problem. He was a bit too proud. One warm afternoon, the lion lay asleep in the tall grass, his golden mane spread out like a fluffy blanket. The sun beamed down, and the jungle was quiet, except for the soft buzz of bees and the rustling of leaves. Suddenly, a tiny mouse, scurrying along in search of food, accidentally ran straight into the lion's huge paw. The lion awoke with a loud roar, his eyes flashing with anger. He lifted his giant paw and trapped the little mouse under it. The mouse trembled, his heart pounding in his tiny chest. "Please, Mr. Lion," the mouse squeaked, shaking with fear. "Please don't eat me. I didn't mean to wake you up. I'm so small and weak, but I promise, if you let me go, I'll help you one day." The lion looked down at the tiny mouse. He couldn't help but chuckle at how small and fragile the mouse seemed. "You? Help me? You're nothing but a speck of dust to me," the lion laughed. "But I'll let you go anyway. Run along, little one." The mouse nodded quickly, squeaking in gratitude. Thank you. I'll never forget your kindness." And with that, the mouse dashed off into the grass, leaving the lion to enjoy his nap. Days passed, and the lion went on with his mighty life. But one day, while prowling through the jungle, the lion found himself trapped. He had wandered into a hunter's net, hidden among the trees. The more he struggled, the more tangled he became, and soon he couldn't move at all. His roars echoed through the jungle, but no one could hear him. "Help! Help!" the lion roared, but the more he fought, the tighter the ropes became. Just as the lion began to lose hope, he heard a tiny squeak. Out of the grass popped the little mouse, his tiny friend from that sunny afternoon. "I'm here to help," the mouse squeaked. The lion could hardly believe his eyes. The mouse scampered up to the net, nibbling at the ropes with his sharp teeth. He worked quickly, and soon the ropes were loosened enough for the lion to break free. "Thank you," the lion exclaimed, his voice filled with surprise and gratitude. "I never thought a tiny mouse like you could save me." The mouse smiled up at the lion. "You were kind to me when you didn't have to be. Now I've returned the favor." The lion, who had always thought of himself as the strongest creature in the jungle, now realized something very important. Even the smallest, most unexpected friend could make a big difference. From that day on, the lion and the mouse became the best of friends. The lion no longer looked down on anyone, no matter how small they were. And the mouse? He knew that even the tiniest creatures can do great things.
Once upon a time, in a beautiful meadow, there lived two very different creatures, an ant and a grasshopper. The ant was a hard-working little insect, always busy gathering food and preparing for the future. The grasshopper, on the other hand, loved to sing and dance in the warm sun. He'd play his tiny violin all day long, without a care in the world. One bright summer day, the ant was scurrying around, collecting bits of grain and leaves. She worked tirelessly, storing food in her cozy underground home for the cold winter ahead. As she worked, she saw the grasshopper lounging nearby, strumming his violin and tapping his feet to the music. "Why don't you come and help me gather food?" the ant called out. "Winter is coming, and we need to be ready." The grasshopper looked up and laughed. "Oh, Aunt, don't worry. The sun is shining, and there's plenty of food around. I'll have all the time in the world to gather when winter comes. For now, I'll just enjoy the music." The ant shook her head, but didn't say another word. She went back to her work, filling her pantry with food. Every day, while the ant worked hard, the grasshopper played, enjoying the beautiful days of summer. As the weeks passed, the weather grew cooler. The leaves turned gold and red, and soon the first snowflakes began to fall. The ant snuggled into her warm underground home, surrounded by food and comfort, ready for the long winter. But the grasshopper, who had spent all his time playing and singing, had nothing to eat. His home was cold, and he had no shelter from the snow. He knocked on the ant's door, shivering with cold. "Please, ant," he asked, "can I come in and share some of your food? I have nothing to eat, and I'm so cold." The ant looked at the grasshopper with a kind but thoughtful expression. "I worked hard all summer to prepare for this time," she said. "You had the chance to do the same, but instead, you spent your days playing. I can't give you food without any thought for the future." The grasshopper sighed. "I didn't know winter would come so quickly. I didn't think ahead." The ant nodded gently. "Winter always comes, and we must be ready for it." But seeing the grasshopper's sad, shivering face, the ant's heart softened. She had prepared enough to share. "You are welcome to come inside," she said kindly. "I will share my food with you and give you a warm blanket." The ant offered the grasshopper a cozy blanket and shared her stored food with him. Though the grasshopper had not prepared, the ant's generosity helped him through the cold days of winter. The grasshopper learned an important lesson that day. It's good to have fun, but it's also important to plan and prepare for the future. From then on, he worked alongside the ant, gathering food and preparing for the seasons ahead. And so the ant and the grasshopper both learned that balance is key. Hard work and play together make life just right.
Once upon a time, high up in the sky, there lived a little cloud named Puffy. Puffy wasn't like the big, fluffy clouds that floated by, casting shadows on the ground below. Puffy was small, and sometimes she felt a little lonely up there. One sunny morning, Puffy heard a voice calling to her from far below. It was the sun, shining brightly as usual. "Good morning, Puffy. I see you're up early today," the sun said warmly. "Good morning, Mr. Sun," Puffy replied. "I'm just floating here, wondering if I'll ever be big and puffy like the other clouds." The sun chuckled. "Oh, Puffy, you don't need to be like the other clouds. You're special just the way you are. But remember, little clouds like you can do big things." Puffy wasn't sure what the sun meant. She looked around and saw the other clouds floating happily. They seemed so big and strong. "What big things can I do?" she asked. "Have you ever tried to bring rain to the earth?" the sun asked. Puffy had never thought about that before. She floated a little lower and saw the dry fields below. The plants looked thirsty, and the farmers were looking up at the sky, hoping for rain. Puffy felt a little spark inside her. Maybe she could help. She closed her eyes and thought really hard about how she could help the thirsty plants. Slowly but surely, Puffy began to grow. She puffed up bigger and bigger, her soft, white edges expanding. As she grew, she began to feel something inside her. A little drop of water ready to fall. "Oh my," she thought. "I'm getting so big now. I think I can do it." With a deep breath, Puffy let go of the drops. One by one, they fell to the earth, splashing softly on the dry fields. The plants seemed to smile up at her, and the farmers cheered in delight. Puffy's heart swelled with happiness. "I did it. I really did it," she exclaimed. From that day on, Puffy felt proud of who she was. She may have been small, but she could make a big difference. And sometimes she even made friends with the other clouds, sharing her secret about how she brought rain to the earth. The sun smiled down on Puffy and said, "See, little one, you're special. And you've proven that even the smallest cloud can make the biggest difference." And from then on, Puffy floated happily through the sky, knowing that no matter her size, she had the power to help and make the world a better place. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support means a lot to us.